Today I'm going to be discussing the South Node in Gemini and North Node in Sagittarius placement in the natal birth chart. So, if you have this placement, then this is the video to watch. If you also know someone with this placement, then this would also be beneficial in understanding them, their karma, and what they need to integrate into their life for more growth and fulfillment. So, just a little overview about the South Node and North Node. The North Node is what we're striving for in this lifetime. It is what we're trying to move toward, and it's new. It is new territory, but it feels exciting, and we have a desire to get there, even though there's a part of us that feels uncomfortable, and it can be a challenge to us. This is what we crave on a deep spiritual level. The North Node takes time to develop and mature, because it's not like, over and over again in past lifetimes with the South Node of, we've developed those traits and qualities over and over again if you, believe in past lives. And I'm questioning whether I'm on that side of it. But the South Node in general is the past. And the North Node is, the future where, you're destined to go. And you can really feel a sense of purpose, feel that wholeness, feel that, excitement, and that your life is, really means something. Now, the South Node is where we go when we are following our North Node, but we eventually need to drop into what we're used to, what we're familiar with. In those ways of being that are so naturally and innately ingrained in us. That's the South Node. The downside is we can get stuck there and we can repeat the same approaches of doing things in the same patterns, living out the same experiences, doing the same things, but we're, really in a rut. And we're sort of, swimming around in a fish tank, not really getting anywhere. We just never really feel that joy and that satisfaction if we're, stuck in the shadow qualities of the South Node. It's about releasing the shadows of that South Node and actually healing it to then balance it out with whatever sign our North Node is in whatever life area or whatever house this is. Now, this video is general to the point of not covering what specific house placement the Sagittarius North Node falls in your natal chart if you have this position. That's, you're sort of going a little bit deeper with that. And I may do another video on the nodes through the different houses, and get into that. But in order to understand where you're going, we need to understand where you're coming from. Now, the big area for this is learning. And information, because Gemini Sagittarius is the learning axis. It seeks to cultivate and take new information, to travel, to explore, to adventure, to go on adventures, to have new experiences, to continually eat away at what there is to explore at life. One thing about Gemini and Sagittarius together is they don't want to be bored. They also don't want to be tied down. It's essential for them to continue to fill their minds with new ideas, to stimulate, their desire to live and, and learn, and it's very exciting for them. And they each approach learning in two different ways. And so, the very spontaneous signs, it deals with, Gemini is the third house, primary education, it relates to that. And short distance travel, Sagittarius is long distance travel. And so, that's just a little overview about that. So Gemini and Sagittarius deals with learning. Now, looking at the South Node in Gemini, you come in with this great talent of being able to speak and share information very well, and to be able to collect information without a bias, but just a neutral and curious mindset. And teaching comes very easily, and comes naturally, where the mindset is what I'm sharing going to help somebody else, and I'm going to give them what they need to hear, and not over speak, and not share a bunch of other information that they don't need to know, so that they become very attuned to what the other person wants to hear. Conversations relating to others, socializing, becomes very natural, and they sort of there is an ability to sort of cater whatever they're saying to whoever they're talking to, and to really get along with them, learn from them. Again, communication becomes big here. They're very intellectual. They are the data collectors, going, the sort of bees, if you will, that travel from flower to flower and collect all of these facts. The butterfly who goes over here, goes over there. So there's a flightiness, there's an open-mindedness, constantly feeling the need to feed their minds with new information. And another thing is, they're very conscious about, a big thing for them is details, about getting the facts right, because it's all about that information. And there's a sensitivity and awareness, maybe even a hyper awareness, that comes in with really feeling the need to get it right, and make sure that you're communicating to the right thing, and asking, is this right, and making sure that it's right in the logical mind, and floating up into the mind, and really missing out on more of the spiritual side of life. The South Node is overdeveloped. So, there's, talking comes naturally, and there's maybe a need to talk, to constantly stimulate, their minds, and to constantly be, going here, going there, doing this, and, keeping their minds active. But, where these people miss out is dropping in, and connecting with their hearts. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But overall, there's a lot of thoughts going through their minds, with just, all the information. And this could be feeling overwhelmed by so much information, and not being able, or finding it difficult, I should say, to synthesize it, make sense of it, and weave the threads together. So similar to the South Node in Pisces, where they can get overwhelmed by emotions and vibrations and things coming in, and they were mystics in previous lifetimes. But with a Gemini South Node, this deals with information, people talking here and there. Have you this event going on? They catering this event, catering this party, going to this uh, event, speaking here, chatting with this person, chatting with that person, where the mind becomes, just overwhelmed with all of these thoughts, and that becomes their life and their focus, and it can be, too much and all kind of very consuming, and it can really take away and distort the dropping in to the intuition in this lifetime. So, another thing here is perhaps gossiping. And I don't want to make any assumptions here, but I could also tie gossiping into this. So, just in general, being, aware of what people are doing, people's, ins and outs, who this person said this person said that. So, sort of sponge for all these facts and for all these connections that you have, and it's so easy for the South Node of Gemini to, so you have an atom and you're splitting it up into many different parts. There's many, many different pieces where you can become scattered, and, there's just a loss of, direction with, just not knowing, just putting the pieces together. That's, a huge part of this. So, yeah. So, and then the other huge important thing here is really being tied to a community. Gemini is all about close community. It's all about interactions, social connections. And this community may limit you. And, you may be very used to this community, but you inside feel small and like you could live a bigger life and explore new places, new, ideas, new cultures, and really inside you really need some perspective, and a new way of looking at the world, and new sights to see, new sort of subjects to learn, and the quest for purpose and meaning is huge here. Becoming very sort of small-minded, gridlocked into that small community. And so, Gemini as a sign is sort of the sampler, exploring a bunch of different things, but not really focusing on a target. I have this goal, I have this career, and this is the direction that I'm going to go in. So finding a sense of purpose, something that you can commit to, something that you feel that that lights you up, that you're passionate about, that brings you, joy and meaning to your life, is really important with, so yeah. So I'm sort of getting ahead of myself here. So yeah, studying a bunch of different things, instead of, really committing to a couple different things or one thing. And so Sagittarius wants to aim at a direction and go there. And the other downside with the South Node, in Gemini, which the South Node reveals the shadow sides, and an outdated old version, I guess you could say, of whatever sign that it's in. So an over-reliance on facts and logic rather than feelings. This is not balanced out, where, the scales outweigh each other, where it was natural to, when faced with a solution, when something that you needed to do, something that you wanted to do, something that you felt called to do, that was sort of suppressed. And instead, when you were faced with, making a decision, or, doing something or saying something, it was always the logical mind. It was always up in the head, first and foremost. That came first. And that's, not where you're meant to go in this lifetime and meant to balance out in this lifetime. So being too sucked into the small little details of things, these little details about, this over here, the little footnotes on this book, the little, labels of this, whatever you're using, so much. And, being so sucked in that you're seeing the trunk of the elephant as opposed to the whole elephant. You're seeing a small part of the portrait instead of zooming back and seeing the bigger picture, and zooming, being very attuned and curious to those little details is very tempting, but there's a sense of fulfillment that comes in with just sort of stepping back and seeing it more holistically, seeing something more collectively, more, from a bigger lens, and getting that sense of it, sort of something higher, becomes, important perspective again. So now, where are you going with the North Node in Sagittarius? Is sort of taking all this information that you're learning, and what does it mean for you? What does it mean, and how, what does it mean, and how are you going to use this to go in a particular direction? What are you going to do with this information that you have collected? Is it just going to be information that you learn, or are you going to, do something, have an experience? And Sagittarius is about, the experience, the voyage, the, globe trekking is something that I associate strongly with Sagittarius. And it is about, freedom and, adventure, and always wants to go beyond. It's always, about going to this new territory, to this new land, to further expand its mind and its, perspective on life. And it's constantly seeking for new adventures that, sort of, can remember and take the wisdom from those experiences. And, Sagittarians come in with a lot of wisdom. And especially as they get older, they become very, very wise people. So, what does this information mean? Making the connections to that information. And knowing yourself, knowing what you want, and knowing what you need, and really, believing it, as opposed to shutting that off and only relying on the validation of your logical mind, which is not as powerful, and it really falls in comparison to, your intuition, and, and it may not be logical, it may not make sense on a mental level, but this is, what you're meant to sort of step into, lean into. And so, A huge part of this is not, always asking questions, should I do this, and then talking to another person about it and sort of, asking, just really validating yourself and giving yourself that permission slip to do something and to say something that you feel that you want to really open your heart up and speak from a place of your heart and sort of to lose attachment to getting it right, to lose attachment to saying the right thing, losing attachment to, um, always, communicating and socializing, and that it makes sense on an intellectual and logical place. So, there's great freedom in that. So, knowing yourself and, turning knowledge, the knowledge that you have, the facts that you have, um, into wisdom. So, if you can take all those facts and, what is the meaning of this? What is the significance of this? What is, the spiritual, meaning, and why am I studying this? Why am I reading this? What is the point to what this person is saying, as opposed to what they're actually saying in the little details of it? What's the bigger sort of, message that people are getting across? Or what is the bigger, maybe even deeper message that you are communicating? The feeling and the motive behind what you're saying. And, how does this piece of information resonate in your body? How does it make you feel? Does it turn you on? Does it motivate you to head in that direction? Does it, how do things land for you? Really, really reflecting on what is being, sort of, what is coming at you. And, sort of, how does it, sit with you? Does it resonate? And, do you want to, um, go there? What's true for you? What's true for you? Finding your truth, finding your spiritual truth is huge with this placement. And not getting so caught up in the truths of others, and, seeing, what they're saying, there's people's souls, and they're, again, seeing beyond the superficial is really huge. Seeing beyond all that glitter, seeing beyond, what's being said, what's at face value, going beyond the words to find the meaning. So knowledge into wisdom, you also seek with this. There is a deep need for freedom of your mind, for freedom of your heart, your soul, your being, and, knowing that you are, that your body is sort of a vessel for spiritual growth and development, and new experiences. So, freedom and adventure. So, having new adventures, and being open to new adventures, and really, embracing the fun, embracing the joy in life, and really being very carefree, and, allowing yourself to, live a life that's, true for yourself, that feels true in your heart. That's a huge placement. So, it's a really fun placement, and it's a very empowering placement as well. Especially if you have your moon conjunct the North Node, that's really going to accelerate you into this. Actually feels emotionally grounding, emotionally, secure for me. This is what nourishes me on an emotional instinct level. This is what I need. And so, there's definitely a lot of advantages to having your moon conjunct whatever your North Node is. So, yeah, embracing more of the jovial feeling um, sides of life as opposed to the intellect, as opposed to the information side. So, your higher self, um, your higher self as opposed to, you, logical mind. So, yeah. Um, so, speaking your truth, giving yourself permission to be honest, direct, speaking your truth. Without being afraid of, oh, this person might think this, or, feel about this way. About, it's not so much about, it may make sense in your mind, but does it make sense in your heart? What you say may not make sense in your head, but that's not what it's about. So, in terms of fields to study with Sagittarius, is anything esoteric, anything big picture, higher learning, philosophy is huge with this religion. Finding your truth, getting out of, the need to, again, constantly be curious and get into the feeling of this, getting into how this makes you feel on a spiritual level, on a soul level, um, going beyond just what um, fulfills your thirst for knowledge, and really how does it make you feel on its soul level, that is broader, where you can be surprised how much there is out there to learn and explore, and there might be there's a lot of enthusiasm when it comes in this placement that I think about. Well, I didn't know about this before. I started studying this, and this is so fascinating me. I want to, learn about this, and I had this, these revelations of, learning this, and, I'm a better version of myself because of this. Like, really, um, also, really not being afraid to share all of, and to celebrate all of the abundance that is out there, that is beyond what is in the community and beyond those little details, because yeah, there's so many, the sky is the limit, and there's so much to discover out there. And Sagittarius is about making the most of your life and living only once, and living a sacred, really full life where you're taking the most advantage of it, and you're really eating this life alive, and having fun, and indulging in so many different things, giving yourself permission to do this, and maximizing what there is out there to learn, to do, to people to meet, so many different types of things. So yeah, so this is definitely a super exciting placement. Yeah, so big topics. Astrology also is a huge area that you can find deep meaning in. Perhaps, ancient history, archaeology, I'm thinking about that. Um, and yeah, so, um, when going in a particular direction, how does it land? Trust in your gut. And then becoming more open-minded to different things is huge. Really being amazed at how much there is out there to learn. And so, yeah, seeing the world from a broader perspective. What are your beliefs? Really evaluating them, reevaluating them, and living out your truth of what's true for you to live out. Um, And working on your spirituality, self-improvement. Sagittarius is a sign that deals with growing, getting better, wants to, grow and, go here and, go over there and continue to expand itself and evolve. And, another part of this is, as much as you want to learn, communication is also a big thing for this placement. So when you can, stop, always having, the need to always communicate things. What about listening? What about, going beyond the words, letting it, sit, really hearing the other person out, and listening deeply to someone else. And so travel, taking risks, getting out of, the community, your community, and travel really, really changes your outlook on life, and it's about embracing and being open to the sort of flow of new perspectives that travel can offer you, with all these enriching new experiences and new places. And so, and really seeking out those higher truths, and then teaching. A Sagittarius once is very enthusiastic, teaching. You will be amazed at all of the rich abundance in your life if you can get beyond those small little details that you feel are limiting, because there's so much more. So that is my sort of extended look at this particular placement, and I hope that you enjoyed.